Qaza, delayed prayer. This article was originally published on April 11, 2015 and updated on July 18, 2024. Some Muslims treat delays in prayers very lightly. Others even procrastinate on purpose and finish other tasks before offering their prayers. Any delay in any kind of prayer, whether mandatory or supererogatory, should be avoided. Some fuqaha, Islamic jurists, have deduced from Surah 8, v. 24 that prayer should be offered on time unless there is a valid excuse, which translates as, O believers, respond to Allah and the Messenger when He calls you to that which will give you life, and know that Allah, sometimes, stands between the man and his heart. God standing between man and his heart is interpreted as Allah interferes and set man's heart on faith, iman, or aversion, disbelief. Another interpretation is that Allah prevents believers from disbelief and disbelievers from belief. Listening to messengers' call towards what will give life most likely refers to a call for jihad. But the meaning of the later part, Allah sometimes stands between man and his heart, is neither clear nor well explained. Only Allah knows the exact meaning and intent of this verse. Any delay in prayers has always been thought reprehensible, in the absence of a legitimate and valid reason. Another thing must also be understood very clearly, that despite fard being compulsory does not mean offer them exactly on time. It is not part of the compulsion, and offering them on time is desired, preferable, and reward-worthy. The condition of on time is not mandatory because it is not always humanly possible to be precise about the timing of each prayer all the time. Allah, SWT, has, therefore, granted this convenience so that his slaves would not be committing sins constantly. There should, however, be a genuine reason, not mere procrastination. Delay Zuhr prayer. Abu Huraira and Abu Dar R.A. narrate that during a journey, Bilal, R.A. wanted to make a call to prayer, adhan, but the Prophet, Pbuh, asked him to wait till it cooled down. Therefore, Zuhr prayer may be delayed in similar circumstances, purely, to emulate Sunnah. Delayed Isha prayer. It is always better to offer it late when not in the congregation. Tahajjud prayer should be offered late, around 4 OC. It is not only Sunnah but also suggested in Quran at different places. Surah Al-Ghafir 40, v. 55 Seek forgiveness for your sins and proclaim the purity of Allah in the afternoon and at dawn. Surah Al-Sad number 38, v. 31-33, lay down a test situation for Prophet Sulaiman, a.s. The Prophet Sulaiman was the most obedient slave of Allah and developed a love for horses used in jihad. The Prophet Sulaiman, having seen them once, desired to see them again. Overindulgence, neglecting the remembrance of Allah, so a dead body was placed on his throne to remind him. The Prophet Sulaiman realized and repented, which Allah accepted. The Prophet Sulaiman, having missed Asar prayer and ordered the slaughtering of horses, are not factual but conjectured stories. A few more instances are quoted from Islamic traditions emphasizing undiluted attention during prayers. A companion, Abu Yam, R.A., presented a throw-over shawl to the Prophet, Pbuh, with some sketches. The Prophet used it once, then returned it, for he got distracted by looking at its design during prayer. A companion, Abu Talha, R.A., during the prayer, while visiting his farm, diverted his attention looking at a bird or birds. To avoid this distraction, he gave away his farm in charity. Famous Sufi Shibli, R.A., burnt his clothes as a self-imposed penalty. Note, it is permissible to deprive oneself of some lawful things as a punishment for mending the aberrant self, zuhd. Self-controlling practices have been commonplace among prophets, Sahaba, Sufis, and saints. Supererogatory prayers, Sunnah and Nafil, may be offered, either before or after the mandatory prayers, but for missed prayers for some reason, one may complete them at any other time. It is, however, not necessarily compulsory or mandatory at all. Not performing these would not entail any punishment. Vigar, Sunamuakita, or Gurmuakita, also, not necessary be completed once missed. Prayer clubbed together, will be considered Ada on time. Without any legitimate reason or compulsions, one can perform Zuhr and Asr, Maghrib, and Isha together, even in reverse order, and will be considered Ada, on time. Clubbing of prayers earlier in time is called Suri, in the middle of time duration Taqdim, and at the end of the time, Takir. One can shorten / curtail, Qasr / plus Jama, any of the prayers in case of an emergency, except 2 rak'ah of Fajr. When one gets overwhelmed by the urgency of circumstances, such as sleep, forgetfulness, under duress, etc., he should offer the missed prayer immediately or at the first available chance. In this case, any of the above prayers offered will not be Qaza but Ada prayed on time. Thank you for using Panopreader Basic. Hadith 1. If and when compelled or in danger, can in an emergency, you may say your prayers while walking or riding. Q. 2:239. In my humble opinion, if one misses all prayers due to legitimate reasons but performs them before the end of the day, before the start of Fajr time, will be better off than not offering them at all because 5 prayers are mandatory in a day. Therefore, in this case at least this minimum threshold will be reached. Neglect or sin is committed during wakefulness and, in his senses, free to act of his own volition not when sleeping, out of senses, mistaken due to wrong understanding, or under duress. The wasting and defaulting the prayer. In the exegesis of verse 1959, exegetes stretch the words/views of several companions, without any acceptable authority or apparent logical reasoning, for making the prayers performed after the time wasted or lost. In my humble understanding, it contradicts the Sunnah and Hadith. The Prophet mixed Zuhr and Asr, Maghrib, and Isha, which discounts the above offered exegetical view. Quoted here under is an abridged Hadith to highlight the point. Hadith narrated by Abu Mas'ud Ansari. Tirmidhi. A prayer is lost when Aqamah/Qiyam, standing upright, is not observed, before and after the ruku'u bowing down and sajda prostration and sitting properly and adequately in between the sujudi prostrations. The improper ablution may also nullify one's prayer. The purpose of such warnings for believers is to be diligent and careful and does not mean that one's sincere intention becomes ineffective and prayers wasted/invalidated just because of unintended neglect or mistake. When you feel composed, at peace/contented, keep up with the prayer. Sure, prayer has been a timed prescription, literally, book, for the believers. Q. 4:103. Istighfar, if there is any unintended misinterpretation or misrepresentation due to the neglect or inadequacy of the author of this piece. May Allah guide and forgive me for it. Ameen. Comment/like/share/follow and subscribe. Shakir Mumtaz. Author, thinker, analyst. Thank you for using Panopreader Basic.